Oh, she gonna grab her mouth too? Oh my God, bro. Oh my God, bro. She grabbed her face and everything.
The doubters were convinced the spotlight had finally burned out. Major media voices, longtime league insiders, and a coaching staff unwilling to adapt seemed eager to see her stumble. For weeks, a coordinated narrative took shape, aiming to diminish Caitlin Clark's influence and bring her back down to earth. Headlines and commentators repeatedly insisted that her historic momentum was disappearing, that casual viewers were losing interest, and that her difficult opening stretch within a flawed offensive structure proved she was never the transformational figure many believed her to be. They pushed every criticism they could find. They questioned her impact, challenged her value, and searched relentlessly for signs of failure. Yet Caitlin Clark did far more than withstand the criticism directed her way. She delivered a response on the largest stage possible and left those narratives in ruins. This was not a slight increase in attention or another successful game on the schedule. What unfolded represented a monumental shift in the landscape of sports viewership itself. The latest figures have arrived, and they are so staggering that they completely dismantle every negative storyline promoted by critics, league traditionalists, and those determined to downplay her significance. The Caitlin Clark phenomenon is not slowing down. It is not merely holding steady. It is reaching heights never seen before, proving once again why so many people continue to gravitate toward her. If you followed the media coverage over the past several days, you would have been led to believe the WNBA was facing serious trouble. You would have thought fan interest in the Indiana Fever had evaporated. Commentators repeatedly advanced the claim that Clark's visible dissatisfaction with Stephanie White's outdated offensive approach was damaging the product and pushing viewers away. They argued that her demeanor had become a distraction. They insisted the surrounding controversy was overshadowing the game itself. But the reality has now arrived in undeniable fashion, and it completely shattered the carefully crafted narrative that had been built against her.
It reported that the WNBA Commissioner Cup Fever vs. Dream Commissioner Cup garnered 10.79 million viewers, the most watched WNBA game in history. This is catastrophic big news for the W, man. Now, I don't know what network that the game came on because I was there, but I do know there was a lot of fans there. Some people made a big thing with it being Pride Night. Now, when
10.79 million viewers. Take a second and truly process that staggering figure. Nearly 11 million people showed up to watch Caitlin Clark in action. This was not merely the highest-rated WNBA matchup of the year. It was not simply the most viewed Commissioner's Cup contest ever. It became the most watched game in the entire history of the WNBA. For those who spent months attempting to diminish her influence, those numbers are impossible to ignore. The audience surpassed many NBA playoff broadcasts and stood alongside some of the biggest events in television sports. And there is one undeniable reason millions tuned in. They want to see number 22 on the court. This record-setting audience has dramatically altered the conversation surrounding the Indiana Fever. For weeks, leadership within the organization appeared determined to maintain complete control over the direction of the team. Caitlin faced constant scrutiny, while being placed inside a slow-paced half-court system that often limited the creativity, vision, and pace that made her a superstar. The belief seemed to be that she could be molded into a completely different style of player and made to fit an outdated basketball philosophy. But when nearly 11 million people are watching, the equation changes. You cannot minimize a player driving unprecedented attention to your franchise. You cannot continuously criticize the athlete generating historic interest, while she helps deliver television audiences never before seen in women's basketball. Yet perhaps the most frustrating aspect of all is what those millions of viewers witnessed. While Caitlin Clark was helping attract the largest audience the sport has ever seen, the product on the floor still failed to maximize her unique talents. Fans tuned in expecting a fast-paced offensive showcase filled with movement, creativity, and excitement. They expected to see the dynamic version of Clark that captivated the nation at Iowa. Instead, Many were left watching an offense that struggled to unlock her strengths and often appeared disconnected from the style of basketball that made her one of the most talked-about athletes in the sport. The broadcast may have been a historic triumph from a ratings perspective, but what viewers witnessed on the court was far from spectacular. Instead of the fast-paced showcase fans expected, the game often felt slow, disconnected, and painfully difficult to watch. The biggest question remains: why? Despite the massive audience and unprecedented attention surrounding the matchup, Stephanie White continued to rely on the same predictable offensive approach. Even with millions watching every decision unfold in real time, there was little effort to consistently create advantageous actions for Caitlin Clark. Opportunities to free her through movement, spacing, and creative sets were limited, allowing defenders to stay attached to her throughout the game and make every possession a battle. What makes the situation even more concerning is a discussion surrounding Clark's physical condition entering the contest. Reports suggested she was dealing with illness before the game, and at several points it appeared she was far from her normal self. Her energy level seemed affected, and the early struggles reflected a player trying to compete while not feeling fully healthy. Yet she still took the floor. She still embraced the responsibility that comes with being the centerpiece of one of the biggest broadcasts in the history of women's basketball. She continued competing despite carrying expectations that few athletes in any sport have ever experienced. Meanwhile, opposing defenses approached her the same way they have all season, applying relentless pressure and forcing her to absorb constant contact. The combination of physical wear and the responsibility of carrying so much attention has created an increasingly difficult environment. Rival teams understand exactly where to focus their efforts, and they know they can make life difficult for Clark on every possession. That reality led to several moments that captured the frustration many fans have been expressing for months. Clark absorbed hard contact, battled through aggressive defense, and repeatedly found herself on the receiving end of physical play while carrying the spotlight of the league.
That a lot of people said that the game was boring. They didn't like the format. They didn't like what they seen on the court. And Stephanie White did a hellacious job for us putting together a spectacular offense. One thing I can say, sitting in the stands, Caitlin Clark was sick, dealing with something. She had a slow start. But overall, I thought the game was entertaining. Now, that was coming from somebody that went to the game, obviously going to the game, being in the arena, hearing the crowd and everything, plays a different factor from you sitting at home and watching.
Naturally, many supporters began asking the same questions. Where is the public defense from the coaching staff? Where is the urgency from organizational leadership when it comes to protecting the franchise's biggest attraction? Too often, the response appears muted despite the enormous value Clark brings both on and off the court. The organization continues to benefit from the attention, visibility, and revenue generated by her presence. Yet critics argue that greater support should accompany those rewards. At the same time, these massive television numbers send a message that cannot be ignored. They reinforce just how significant Clark's impact has become across the sports landscape. The predictions that her popularity would fade have been proven wrong, and the narratives questioning her drawing power continue to collapse under the weight of the audience she attracts. Yet despite that success, many believe she remains part of a system that has not fully unlocked her strengths. The Indiana Fever front office now faces growing pressure to ensure that record-breaking viewership is matched by an on-court product capable of maximizing its biggest star. Eventually, millions of viewers will look beyond the headlines and focus on the basketball itself. The debate will shift from popularity to performance, from ratings to results. One thing is already clear. The records have been broken, the doubters have been answered, and the attention surrounding Caitlin Clark has reached another level entirely. But the conversation about how to build the best environment for her success is far from over. With millions now following every game, every decision, and every outcome, the spotlight on Indiana has never been brighter. The pressure continues to grow, and all eyes remain fixed on whether the organization's leadership can adapt a moment, or whether the questions surrounding the team's direction will only become louder in the weeks ahead.